What is up, everybody? It is Ryan, your Draco meteorologist, coming to you with the Week 5 Team Builder. And this week we are playing against our friend Austin, or the Columbus Kroowooloo team. So, quick little backstory. Austin's been in the league just as long as we have. One thing I'm terrified in this matchup is for Alligator. The first season we ever did, this was probably over 3 years ago now, or over two, like about 2.5 years ago. I was super new to Draft League, and I played against Austin, and he had hit one of his favorite Pokemon for Alligator, and he just swept me with Dragon Dance because I didn't know what it really was or what it did, and it was like an 8-turn game where he just brought in for Alligator, clicked Dragon Dance twice, and killed every one of my Pokemon. So I think it looks pretty good into my team again this week. So a lot of my team building was kind of around making sure that I had answers if this for Alligator ever gets out of hand with a Dragon Dance, and as I'll talk about a little bit later behind a screen, if we can kind of look at his team a little bit here. But for right now, let's go a little bit over what I decided to do this week. This week I have Mandibuzz. He is going to be, or she is going to be my physically defensive pivot here. I've got the U-turn to try to get out of there. Foul play will almost always break this Skeleturge if it's especially defensive with the super effective move and max health. Roost just to get a little bit of health, and then Defogs for a couple of reasons. Number one, I think he's going to bring webs, his Galvantula. He can put up rocks in a couple of different ways, most notably Crocodile, who almost comes every single week, but also in Alone Golem and Knackle Stackle, who I think one of those might be coming. That's my assumption. And yeah, so I think having defog on this, also to get rid of the screens on Abomasnow is going to be really important. So this is kind of one of my more important Pokemon. Unlike last week or 2 days ago when I played against AJ and sacked my Petrunt, who is my most important Pokemon, in like turn 6 because I was really, really stupid and not thinking. I need to keep this thing alive a little bit longer, especially if we've got webs out on the floor, and especially if screens are still in play, and those types of things. I think this is going to be rather hard for Austin to kill. So yeah, that's the first Pokemon, probably one of my most important Pokemon this week. Second, I've got Empoleon. This is the first time, week 5, that Empoleon is coming out to play. I think it is a really good answer into Skeleturge. It's also one of a defensive option against Feraligatr that his stab and water move does not do too much damage to me. So if he ever gets +1 with like a Sheer Force Life Orb, Earthquake is going to be the thing that would kill me. I've got the Shuka Berry there, and I've got a Grass Knot to do about 60% of his health is currently what my special attack is. And I've got other ways to either outspeed it and kill it that way, or take another hit and kill it as well. With the Mandibuzz being defensive, we'll be able to take even an Ice Punch and basically kill it back with a Foul Play was another thing. So both of these can answer a +1 for Alligator. The Surf is for Skeleturge. Flip Turn, I think, was really good momentum for most of his team. Grass Knot, like I said, was for Alligator, and Roost just to get a little bit of health. The speed I have this week is to make sure to outspeed a little bit invested Skeleturge. I think Austin hasn't put a whole bunch of speed in it yet, and I think it's rather important to be able to outspeed this thing and be able to get those surfs off before he can get those torch songs that will eventually ramp up. Like +2 is doing about 60% to me right here, which would outplay my Roost. So I need to make sure that I'm able to kill this thing before it can kind of kill me. But yeah, so competitive this week instead of Torrent because I am really afraid of the webs, and I think getting plus on this is pretty good. Obviously for Skeleturge it doesn't matter because it'll be unaware, but for some of the other things, such as like for Alligator, if webs are up and I take that hit, that Grass Knot becomes an automatic one-hit KO. Crocodile as well. If I have a Shuka Berry, I will live 1 Earthquake as long as it's not +1. And then I can kill him back with a Surf if webs are up. So a couple different ways to play around that. Palmot this week is going to be my just-in-case answer for Alligator. If he does get 1 Dragon Dance up, this Thunder Punch will do about 95% minimum if he's not invested. So there is a chance that it does not kill currently. The defense investment is if Feraligatr is not +1 and he clicks like a Liquidation in front of me, I will live that as long as I don't click close combat in his face. So that is a way where if we're ever facing off against each other, his highest damaging move, which is going to be, unless he brings Earthquake, which most of the time you don't do. I think Crunch looks better into my team overall. Then that'll be his highest damaging move. So Thunder Punch, knockoff for the Skeledirge, basically. Close combat for the rest of his team. He's got a lot of rock types here, or like this Crocodile Dark type. It's super effective on a lot of things. And Volt Switch, if he starts to realize that I am Choice Scarf, which shouldn't be too hard, especially if there's ever a time where I'm sitting on a web and obviously I should be slower than something, but I'm not. And then the speed investment is to make sure I always outspeed this Crocodile, even if I'm on a webs here currently. So, yeah. Hitmonchan, also one of the Pokemon that I'm bringing this week that hasn't been brought in any of my other 4 weeks. This was kind of not really a last minute change, but like I was really deciding on some of these last few Pokemon, and I was afraid of the Galvantula start, and I didn't have a whole bunch of answers other than I was like thinking of like a Torterra with like a Rock Blast or Terra Rock Dugtrio doing the same thing, trying to pop that Sash. But I thought this was a really good defensive pivot and another kind of for alligator answer if it gets out of check. And it's super low health with like a Mach Punch, a stab Mach Punch with Iron Fist, as well as another good way to get rid of these sticky webs. And then the Brick Break again, a different way to kill screens if Mandibuzz somehow cannot get out there or is gone. I am really afraid of both of these screens and these webs, which I think he's going to bring both of. So I try to have a lot of answers. The Assault Vest is most of his team that's something that I like want to be in front of is special attacking, right? As Feraligator's just gonna clown me anyways with my stats right away. And same thing with Crocodile, unless I'm faster and I can get off like a Brick Break, as long as he doesn't have Intimidate. That's kind of the main reason for the Assault Vest. The one thing currently is I don't really have anything to hit Skeledirge with if he's physically defensive, and I have like Knockoff, which would be the only thing that would do something, or like an Earthquake as well. It's just not doing enough to ever get through his slack offs. So this was never an answer to it anyways. So if I see it and he realizes that he's just going to switch into this every time, it's a good spin blocker, or even for clicking Brick Break into his screens, I'll probably have to do some doubles and try to outplay him that way. We got Dugtrio for the second time. One of my Terra captains. Austin doesn't have a whole bunch of ground resistances, so that's what this is for. Is it's going to be Terra Ground, Earthquake. It outspeeds his entire team. If you bring something like Salazzle or Whimsicott, and it's going to do a decent amount of damage. But mostly it was I'm like really scared of this Alone Golem. He can go Terra Electric or Terra Normal and like kill my entire team. So this thing has a Focus Sash, so if it is Terra Normal and he clicks Explosion on me, I will live it as long as there's not rocks up on the field. As well as if this thing dies, this is like my least important piece, I think, of my team overall. So this is kind of like that dedicated sack for a lone golem, but it also does do a good amount of damage for everything else, right? And if I do predict that he's Terra Normal Explosion, get in this with a Focus Sash, as long as he's not Scarf on something, as long as the sticky webs are gone, I'm going to be able to put something down to 1% and or kill it, depending on if it's super effective against like an Earthquake or even try to get some lucky flinches off of a Rock Slide or something like that against like either Galvantula or Abomasnow, Rotom Frost, stuff like that. Finally this week I've got Offensive Delphox. It's going to have 3 moves and Switcheroo for the choice specs. This was kind of a Knuckle Stack, looked relatively decent as well into my team. I didn't have too many answers, so I thought switcherooing something like a choice specs on it would look really good. It's also a decent answer for Skeledirge, where I can just go in with a choice specs Shadow Ball, and like worst case scenario, I can try to switcheroo a choice specs on it, and that way it can't slack off or anything like that, but it's probably not going to happen. Otherwise, Flamethrower and Psychic hit his entire team, one or the other. And then Shadow Ball again, just kind of for that Skeledirge. So those are the 6 that I brought this week. Things that I think Austin is going to bring. I think Krook looks really good, and Feraligator are kind of the 2 for sure ones. Skeledirge looks pretty good into my team. It kind of outpaces Petrant, which it could be used for a Petrant answer realistically. Galvantula I think looks good. Whimsicott I'd be surprised because Petront just walls it. I've always brought Petront every week except for this one. So if he brings it, might be a little bit of an issue, but I've got this Delphox here, and Whimsicott doesn't really do much damage. It's more of a supportive Pokemon. Salazzle again, that thing is super frail. I've brought rocks every single week. So it's either going to have to be like Sashed or Boots, but I've got Dugtrio to kind of deal with it, or a Choice Scarf Palmot. I'm not too worried about that. He might bring it just so he can Toxic my Petulant, so I could see that. Tatsuguri, I've got a couple of Steel types. I'm pulling on walls is super hard. There's nothing that really hits it. So maybe he brings it, maybe he doesn't. I'm not too worried. Rotom Frost again, I don't think is too likely to be brought. The double stab of ice and electric is really nice. It kind of hits everything on my team. But I think it's relatively slow, and if he does bring a bomb, I think there's just better things out there. Dugtrio can kind of come in and hit it with a rock slider. Palmot can come in with a close combat and kill it too. So I've got a couple answers there. Abomasnow I think is coming, and I'm pretty sure this Alone Golem is coming. I think like the Krook for Alligator, Galvantula, Abomasnow, and Alone Golem are like for sure. And then I would probably guess Skeledirge and probably Rotom Frost would be the other two, and then the rest I think are unlikely to come. But otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next video. And yeah.